Nestled far from the clamor of civilization, a vast expanse of wilderness unfurled, its undulating mountains crowned with dense forests that whispered tales of ancient times, this remote haven, teeming with life yet untouched by modernity, thrived under a sky that stretched endlessly in shades of deep blue, interrupted only by the occasional plume of clouds lazily drifting by. The air here was crisp and invigorating, carrying the earthy scent of pine needles mingled with a hint of damp soil. Hints of rain hanging in the balance. This serene atmosphere, however, belied a vulnerable truth. The wild had its dangers, not just for the creatures that roamed freely but also from human encroachment. Traps hidden among the underbrush posed a grave threat to unsuspecting animals. In this seemingly tranquil setting, nature's delicate balance was perpetually at risk. As sunlight filtered through the thick canopy above, casting dappled shadows across the forest floor, the sounds of rustling leaves and distant bird calls blended into a symphony of wilderness. Squirrels darted playfully along branches while deer cautiously navigated clearings. All existed in harmony, until one fateful day when destiny set its course toward an unforeseen encounter. A narrow trail wound its way through this beautiful landscape, leading to undiscovered corners where few dared to tread. It was along this very path that a solitary man found himself on a hiking expedition. He had always been an adventurer at heart. Drawn by the allure of exploration and the serenity offered by nature's embrace, his appreciation for wildlife ran deep. He carried with him not just supplies for his journey but also an instinctive desire to connect with the environment around him. As he pressed forward through the foliage, his mind wandered to thoughts of what lay ahead, new vistas and untold stories waiting to unfold. But with each careful step taken into the embrace of solitude, he sensed something amiss, a soft sound pulling at his attention. It echoed faintly at first before growing louder, a distressing cry slicing through the gentle rustle of leaves. He paused instinctively, listening intently. The sound was unmistakable. It tugged at his heart. A bear cub's lament resonated through the otherwise tranquil wilderness. Compelled to investigate, he quickened his pace toward the source of anguish. The deeper he ventured into the trees, the more palpable the sorrow became, finally breaking through a line of dense underbrush. He came upon an agonizing sight. Trapped within iron jaws was a young bear, its eyes wide with fear and tears glistening like dew on morning grass. The helpless creature struggled against its binds despite its exhaustion, releasing plaintive cries that pierced his soul. In that moment, everything else faded away. The beauty of the landscape dimmed as his heart filled with urgent compassion. Here was not just an animal caught in a trap. It was a living being experiencing sheer pain and vulnerability. Right before him, a stark reminder that even amidst nature's splendor lay suffering and peril. His mind raced as he quickly assessed the situation. The bear looked up at him with pleading eyes that conveyed both fear and hope. A wave of determination surged within him. He couldn't just stand idly by while this creature suffered. This moment marked more than just an encounter. It called for action. The surrounding forest seemed to hold its breath as he crouched down beside the trap. Adrenaline coursed through him as he reached out cautiously toward the bear. They locked eyes for what felt like an eternity, an unspoken bond forming between them in shared understanding. He had ventured into this wilderness searching for solace but found instead a call to save someone lost within it. While brushing aside worries about safety or potential repercussions from freeing such a powerful creature, after all, wild bears were unpredictable, he resolved to forge ahead with his plan. He felt certain in his ability to approach gingerly and gain trust before making any move toward liberation, with every carefully executed step forward guided by compassion over caution. The weightiness of responsibility settled upon him. This act would not only free a bear but forge a bridge between human and beast in an untamed world full of fragile connections desperately needing support amid adversity. The wild stillness enveloped them both as he worked diligently to release the bear from its torment, a testament to Hope reiterated throughout nature's story, a pledge renewed that neither creature should face suffering alone in their existential dance beneath wide-open skies. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the forest floor, the solitary hiker continued along the narrow path. His name was Ethan, a 30-something nature enthusiast who had always felt more at home among trees and streams than in bustling cities. With tousled hair and a rugged exterior, he embodied the spirit of adventure, his weathered backpack filled with essentials for the journey ahead. Ethan's passion for exploration was rooted in his childhood, where weekends were spent hiking with his father through national parks and state forests. Those early experiences instilled in him a profound respect for the natural world. His father often spoke of the interconnectedness of life, encouraging Ethan to observe animals in their habitats rather than merely seeing them as distant creatures. This instilled a sense of empathy that had grown deeper with age. Over the years, Ethan had traveled far and wide, to remote mountain ranges and serene lakesides. Each expedition was a chance to escape the demands of daily life, a way to recharge his spirit. This particular trek was no exception. He sought solace from the chaos of his job as an environmental scientist, a field where he fought tirelessly for wildlife conservation and preservation. He knew firsthand how fragile ecosystems could be and believed that every small effort made a difference. Motivated by a desire to immerse himself in untouched landscapes, Ethan had carefully chosen this secluded wilderness for its rarity. It was a place largely free from human interference, where animals roamed unburdened by fear. As he walked, he reveled in the symphony of nature. Birds sang overhead, leaves fluttered gently in the breeze, and the sound of a nearby stream provided a soothing backdrop that melted away tension. Here, every breath felt like a commitment to preserving something precious. Despite his profound appreciation for nature, however, Ethan was not naive about its vulnerabilities. The increasing encroachment of human activities weighed heavily on his mind. Habitat destruction and climate change were never far from his thoughts. This realization drove him even deeper into the wilderness. On hikes like this one, he sought to reconnect with the land and gather inspiration for his work, believing that first-hand experiences would fuel his advocacy. On this particular day, armed with a journal and camera for reflection, he was drawn not just by the beauty around him but also by a quest for clarity regarding his life's purpose. As he pressed forward along the winding trail, he couldn't shake off a feeling that something significant awaited him, a conviction so strong that it almost felt like an unseen companion guiding him through the trees. Ethan paused occasionally to take photographs or jot down notes about flora and fauna he encountered along the way. He marveled at intricate wildflowers blooming defiantly between rocks or spotted deer moving warily through underbrush. Every detail mattered to him. It was as if each moment captured was a piece of a larger puzzle that revealed nature's astonishing creativity. His thoughts turned toward animals as he navigated deeper into the woods. In particular, he found bears fascinating, powerful yet gentle creatures that symbolized resilience amidst adversity. He had always felt a kinship with them, connecting their struggle for survival to humanity's own quest for balance within the environment. But as he ventured onward, an unusual sound broke through his reverie. The heart-wrenching cries echoing through the trees jolted him out of contemplative space. Instinctively drawn toward the source of distress, Ethan's heart raced with urgency. It ignited within him an unyielding determination that combined compassion with responsibility. This moment would not just be another anecdote to recount post-hike or an experience to load onto social media. It was a call to action, a pivotal crossroads that would test his values and beliefs about human interaction with wildlife. With each step toward the sound of sorrowful cries emanating from deep within the forest, Ethan's resolve strengthened. The time for merely observing nature was over. Now was a chance to protect it actively. As he approached the clearing where fate awaited him, Ethan felt an electric charge coursing through him, a sense of purpose unlike anything he'd ever known before, melding perfectly with his lifelong admiration for the wild. In this wilderness where danger often lurked behind beauty, he would take a stand for something greater than himself. Here began an unexpected bond destined to unfold between man and bear amid the fragile embrace of nature itself. As Ethan moved deeper into the forest, the sound that had pierced through his reverie grew louder, more urgent. Each distressing cry echoed around him like a ripple of anguish through the trees. With his heart racing, he pushed forward, guided by both instinct and the gnawing concern knotting in his stomach. The melody of the wilderness faded away, replaced by this heart-wrenching lament that tugged at his very core. Navigating through thick underbrush, Ethan finally broke through a cluster of towering pines. His breath caught in his throat when he saw it, a young bear, no more than a year old, caught in a cruel trap designed for larger animals. The iron jaws clenched tightly around its paw, holding it firmly against the earth. It struggled pitifully, its body writhing with fear and desperation as it emitted low whimpers mixed with frantic attempts to break free. Ethan's heart ached at the sight that he could see the glimmer of tears forming in the bear's expressive eyes filled with fear, confusion, and palpable agony that sent a jolt of emotion coursing through him. The young bear's glossy coat was matted with mud from its efforts to escape, and its thin frame indicated days of anxiety and hopelessness. It huffed in exasperation after each futile attempt to wrench itself free, every sound it made resonating with Ethan's empathy for their shared predicament. They were both beings navigating an indifferent world. The reality of what he faced sunk like a weight in his chest. This was not merely an animal trapped, it was a vulnerable creature pleading for help in a world often unforgiving to those at its mercy. Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of urgency to act promptly and compassionately. The moment demanded more than mere observation. It required decisive action. He crouched down carefully at the edge of the clearing, trying not to startle the bear more than it already was. His heart raced as he tried to find words to reassure it, although he knew deep down that words were not what this creature needed right now. He whispered softly, almost instinctively, "It's okay. I'm here to help you." As if sensing his presence meant safety despite being trapped, the bear briefly paused its struggle and looked directly into Ethan's eyes, searching for understanding and perhaps trust. Ethan was taken aback by the intensity of that gaze. Within those shimmering depths lay a spectrum of emotions, the raw fear of impending harm mixed with an innate yearning for connection. It struck Ethan profoundly. This was not just any bear. It was a symbol of resilience intertwined with suffering amidst relentless adversity brought on by human actions. His focus shifted to the trap. Every second felt like an eternity as determined thoughts ricocheted in his mind. A frantic insistence on doing something now or regret trying afterward would be unbearable. He could see how tightly the mechanism gripped around its paw, the anguish evident as blood began trickling down from where the force pressed hard against fragile skin. With resolve guiding him onward, he assessed his surroundings for potential tools to use or methods that could allow him access without inflicting further harm on either of them. The forest seemed alive with muted whispers and rustling leaves as if nature itself held its breath while Ethan contemplated how best to free this innocent creature from its torment. Every step forward shivered with tension as he became acutely aware of time slipping away, the daylight dwindling rapidly alongside his thoughts circling back to why he had come here today, not only searching for clarity but also recognizing how vital it was to stand up for those who couldn't speak for themselves. Here stood an embodiment of innocence and beauty ensnared by cruel human devices. This moment would shape his purpose beyond mere appreciation for wildlife. As he gingerly extended his hand toward the trap's mechanism, Ethan silently vowed not just to release this young bear but also to advocate fiercely against such cruelty moving forward, a pledge ignited within him amid a bittersweet moment unfolding before their eyes. a new bond forged in shared vulnerability beneath an expanse of ever-watchful trees that held their secret tales close. In that charged moment cradled between hope and despair would spring forth an unexpected journey awaiting both man and beast side by side on paths they never anticipated crossing until now. Ethan knelt on the forest floor, his heart racing as he focused intently on the bear trapped in the cruel embrace of the iron jaws. The creature's whimpers echoed in his ears, amplifying his determination to act swiftly yet cautiously. He understood that this was not just about freeing the bear, it was also about respecting its spirit and ensuring that both of them emerged from this encounter unscathed. Before making any moves, Ethan took a moment to observe the situation meticulously. He noted how the trap gripped the bear's paw with unyielding force, blood trickling down from where the metal pressed too tightly against tender skin. The bear's visible pain stirred a protective instinct within him. He wanted to help, but he knew that any sudden movements could frighten the animal further or provoke it into a defensive reaction. Calming himself, Ethan whispered gently to reassure the bear, "I'm here to help you." He kept his voice low and soothing as he assessed his surroundings for anything that might aid in releasing it. His background as an environmental scientist came into play. He had learned to think critically and creatively under pressure. Each decision mattered now more than ever. Ethan spotted a sturdy stick nearby and carefully leaned forward to grasp it without startling the bear. He intended to use it as leverage against the trap mechanism while simultaneously keeping a safe distance between him and the frightened animal. As he held it firmly in hand, Ethan acknowledged how vital trust was at this moment. His intentions needed to be clear not only for his own sake but for that of the young bear. With slow, deliberate movements, Ethan approached closer again, whispering reassurances while keeping eye contact with the bear. He wanted it to feel more at ease with him. After all, their fates were intertwined in this pivotal moment. He could see some recognition spark within those expressive eyes, the flicker of understanding that perhaps this human intended no harm. Taking a deep breath, Ethan positioned himself so that he could carefully use the stick to pry open one side of the trap's jaws. It required a gentle yet firm touch, a balancing act between applying enough pressure to free the device while avoiding any further pain for the bear. As he began working on loosening it, every muscle in his body tensed with focus. The sound of rustling leaves and distant bird calls faded into silence as nature seemed to suspend time around them. This small clearing became their world. Ethan's sole focus narrowed down to freeing this creature caught in an unnatural predicament. Nothing else mattered but their shared struggle against adversity. A few painstaking moments passed while he maneuvered meticulously, using all his strength and wits to shift the trap mechanism just enough without causing additional distress. Sweat beaded on his forehead as anxiety coursed through him. Would it be enough? Each second felt like an eternity until finally, there was a soft click echoing through stillness. The trap loosened slightly. Relief flooded through him as he seized upon this breakthrough opportunity with careful calculation and unwavering resolve guiding each movement thereafter. Ethan continued adjusting until he could pry open one side entirely, allowing just enough space for the young bear's trembling paw to slip free from its bonds. Exhilaration erupted within him. They were almost there, but even amidst this victory, Ethan remained mindful of what lay ahead. The need for compassion extended far beyond mere physical release. It was vital now that he handled this next part delicately so as not to scare or overwhelm what had just escaped confinement. He cautiously reached out with gentle hands toward where freedom beckoned, instinctively holding back tears at how close they were now, and how fragile life could be when faced with cruelty or misfortune brought on by human actions. The young bear hesitated briefly before moving its paw free from beneath those relentless jaws. A combination of instinctive fear battling against emerging relief surged through them both. For those fleeting seconds where man and beast coexisted in fragile harmony amid uncertainty echoed throughout nature's enigmatic core. A promise sealed between them amidst whispers from rustling branches overhead, inspiring hope anew. As they stood there together, one newly freed from pain while another remained steadfastly committed, it marked not merely an end but also an awakening toward greater understanding, their stories intertwined forevermore under canopies weaving tales only nature itself could comprehend fully. As the trap finally released its grip, the young bear stumbled backward, its eyes wide with a mix of fear and disbelief. A wave of confusion washed over it, as though it could scarcely comprehend what had just happened. For a brief moment, the bear stood frozen in place, its body tense and quivering, scanning the area for any signs of danger. The forest seemed to hold its breath, every rustle of leaves amplifying the tension in that charged moment. Ethan watched closely, his heart pounding as he awaited the bear's next move. Would it flee in terror or linger? Caught between instinct and curiosity, he felt an overwhelming urge to reassure the creature, but he understood that any sudden movement on his part might trigger a flight response. Instead, he remained still, giving the bear space to process its newfound freedom. Gradually, the bear lowered its head and inspected its injured paw, now free from the cruel jaws that had held it captive for so long. It sniffed at the ground as if trying to understand where it was and what had just occurred. Ethan noted the way its small frame trembled slightly. This was not merely a creature escaping a trap but one grappling with an array of emotions that he could only begin to fathom. Fear from its recent ordeal, confusion about the human who had come to its aid, and perhaps a flicker of gratitude buried beneath layers of instinctual wariness. Then, as if shaken from a trance, the bear took a cautious step forward, testing its weight on the injured paw. Ethan held his breath, realizing that this first movement would be crucial in determining their interaction. The bear seemed hesitant but eventually made another step toward him, curiosity slowly overriding its fear. Its wide eyes remained fixed on Ethan as if searching for reassurance, a silent conversation unfolding between them amidst the rustling trees. Ethan felt a swell of hope as he stayed grounded in place, offering no threat while silently encouraging this fragile creature to trust him. He couldn't help but marvel at how such an innocent being could evoke such a medley of emotions within him. Relief that it had escaped harm and trepidation over how it might react to him now. In a surreal twist of fate, their eyes met again. This time there was something different in the bear's gaze, a softening that spoke volumes about its internal struggle. The initial fear began to dissipate like morning fog under the warmth of the rising sun. Something akin to recognition flickered across the bear's face. Perhaps it sensed that this human had intervened out of kindness rather than malice. With cautious steps, the young bear moved closer still, forging an invisible bond that transcended words. It paused just outside Ethan's reach and sniffed the air between them, as if testing for scents, its own instincts. Grappling against newfound curiosity, the distance felt both vast and intimate at once. They were two beings inhabiting separate worlds yet connected by circumstance. Ethan felt his heart swell with emotion as he observed this delicate dance of trust unfold before him. The tension in the air shifted from one of uncertainty to something more profound. A moment steeped in connection and understanding that transcended language or species. He dared not move or make a sound. Instead, he simply focused on maintaining that magical moment where both man and beast stood vulnerable yet united against adversity. Finally breaking through that invisible barrier, the bear took one more step forward. It hesitated for just a heartbeat before gently nuzzling Ethan's outstretched hand with its snout, an act imbued with trust that ignited an overwhelming sense of joy in him. Tears pricked at his eyes as he absorbed the depth of that shared moment. Here was a creature who had endured unimaginable pain yet found courage enough to embrace kindness when offered. In those fleeting seconds spent together in silence, a communion formed amid nature's splendor. The bear's expression shifted from confusion to something softer, a blend of gratitude and relief. This unexpected encounter became an emblematic moment for both, it signified not only survival but also resilience. The shared acknowledgement that they were both creatures navigating life's trials together beneath an endless sky filled with promise. As Ethan dared to smile amidst waves of emotion crashing over him, he recognized fully what this experience represented, a powerful reminder that compassion could flourish even in places marred by cruelty, a testament to hope thriving amid uncertainty. Man and bear united through shared vulnerability within a wild landscape echoing tales both ancient and new. As the young bear took a tentative step back from Ethan, it paused to look up at him, its expressive eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and lingering caution. The initial fear that had gripped it moments earlier seemed to fade as it cautiously tested its surroundings, flexing its injured paw while assessing the world beyond the trap. Ethan felt a surge of hope when he noticed that the bear didn't immediately scurry away. Instead, it lingered close by, as if trying to make sense of this strange human who had intervened in its moment of despair. Ethan, moved by this newfound connection, took a few steps backward, giving the bear space. While still encouraging it to follow, every instinct told him to be gentle and patient. He whispered softly, "You're safe now. Let's go together." The forest around them was alive with sounds, birds chirping overhead and leaves rustling in the gentle breeze, but within this small bubble of existence, their shared journey was just beginning. The young bear hesitated for a moment but then seemed to make a decision. It watched Ethan intently as he took another step back, revealing more of the path behind him. Without breaking eye contact, the bear edged forward, its movements slow and deliberate. Each careful step demonstrated a blend of uncertainty and trust. It was still grappling with its recent trauma but appeared intrigued by the human before it. Ethan smiled as he turned slightly to lead the way down the trail. With every stride he took, he could feel some magnetic pull drawing the bear closer, a silent invitation into companionship amid nature's vastness. He allowed himself to glance back occasionally, wanting to reinforce their bond without startling the bear further. As they moved away from the trap site, Ethan marveled at how the atmosphere shifted around them. The air felt lighter, infused with an unspoken connection between man and animal. A promise forged in adversity and kindness. The final vestiges of tension gradually melted away into an exhilarating sense of freedom shared between them. The young bear started to mimic Ethan's movements more readily now, not just following but beginning to explore its surroundings anew. A low rumble emerged from its belly, perhaps signaling hunger or curiosity about the scents wafting through dense underbrush nearby. It ventured toward a cluster of wildflowers that caught its attention. Sniffing eagerly before gingerly nibbling on a few petals, Ethan halted his own strides momentarily to watch this playful exploration unfold. It filled him with warmth seeing that initial spark of joy return to this creature's demeanor after such hardship. There was something beautiful about witnessing life reclaiming itself, even amidst lingering shadows cast by recent events. The bear was expressing itself in raw authenticity. As they walked side by side along narrow paths carved by time and nature's whims, Ethan felt an almost symbiotic relationship begin to form, both being mindful, yet instinctually aware, their lives interlinked in ways they might not fully comprehend at that moment but whose significance would grow clearer with each shared experience. Every now and then, Ethan would crouch down or pause altogether when catching sight of something interesting, a fallen log teeming with insects or a shimmering creek reflecting sunlight splashing onto nearby stones. With each discovery came opportunities for interaction. Ethan would point or gesture toward wonders nearby while murmuring excitedly about nature's intricacies. To his surprise and delight, the young bear would often stop alongside him, mirroring his enthusiasm and inspecting whatever caught their attention with wide-eyed wonderment. It was as if they were learning from one another, each moment echoing back those days spent hiking with his father when exploration felt boundless. They forged onward together through meandering trails adorned with ferns swaying gently in hidden glades where sunlight poured. Through gaps in canopies above, an emerald world where they both found solace amidst recovery, one searching for freedom from oppression while another fostering compassion upon encountering vulnerability head-on. With every step taken together deeper into this wilderness embraced by flowing streams and whispering winds came moments laden with meaning. The quiet understanding that their paths had converged fortuitously beneath an infinite sky dotted with drifting clouds casting shifting shadows over landscapes etched by ancient stories long forgotten. In those precious hours spent wandering hand in paw through nature's glories, their unanticipated bond blossomed amidst trials endured, a testimony woven intricately into tapestries formed across generations past, seeking harmony between man and beast alike, living intertwined across spaces sewn together under watchful stars, illuminating shared destinies against all odds, faced only within sacred realms, waiting to unveil secrets obscured until now. As Ethan and the young bear continued their journey deeper into the forest, they encountered a series of challenges that would test their newfound bond. The terrain varied widely. Some paths were smooth and inviting, while others were rugged and fraught with obstacles that demanded careful navigation. Tall roots jutted out from the earth like the gnarled fingers of ancient trees, and sharp rocks littered the ground, making each step treacherous. Ethan maneuvered skillfully over these obstacles, glancing back regularly to ensure the bear was keeping up. To his surprise, the young creature began to navigate the terrain with a growing confidence, cautiously stepping over fallen branches and assessing tricky slopes with a deliberative nature that mirrored Ethan's own. Each time the bear hesitated, Ethan would stop to demonstrate a safe way around, offering gentle encouragement with soft words. Suddenly, an unexpected roar echoed through the forest, causing both man and creature to freeze in place. Ethan's heart raced as he scanned the area for signs of danger. The sound had come from a pride of mountain lions nearby, top predators who might see a young bear as easy prey. He had read about them but had never encountered any in the wild. The young bear's ears perked up at the sound too. It instinctively huddled closer to Ethan's side, seeking refuge with this fierce yet compassionate human. "Stay close," Ethan whispered urgently, keeping low to the ground and moving quietly. He began retracing their steps back toward thicker brush where they might find cover. He felt adrenaline surging through his veins as they maneuvered through dense undergrowth. Every rustle felt amplified against his heightened senses. With caution guiding their steps, they soon reached a cluster of thick bushes that provided some concealment. Nestled there among leaves and vines, Ethan could feel the weight of uncertainty hovering over them. He placed his hand on the young bear's back in reassurance while remaining vigilant for their surroundings. A tense silence enveloped them as they waited for any sign of movement from not only the lions but also from other wildlife in the area. Gradually, after what felt like an eternity of holding their breath, they heard only distant bird calls echoing through trees, a sign that perhaps danger had passed for now. Emerging from hiding, Ethan took stock of their surroundings before leading the way once again. Though shaken by the encounter, he found solace in watching how resolutely the young bear stayed close beside him, a silent testament that this bond was growing ever stronger in face of adversity. The weather began to shift too. Dark clouds swirling ominously above them as they pressed onward into more open terrain. The change brought a palpable tension, instinctively urging them both to move faster lest rain cascaded down upon them unexpectedly. They trekked briskly across an expanse of tall grass interspersed with rocky patches where footing was uncertain. Drops began pattering against foliage overhead soon after. Ethan glanced at the sky, feeling raindrops speckle his forehead while droplets began sliding down leaves above them like laughter bursting forth from nature itself. He sensed fatigue creeping into his limbs, though kept steadfast determination to continue moving forward. After all, both he and the bear needed shelter. "Let's find cover," he called out, directing their path toward a grove nearby where thick trees promised refuge from an impending downpour. The weather was no match for burgeoning camaraderie and resilience boiling within them. They pushed forward through wind-blown grass toward safety ahead. As rain began to fall heavier around them, soaking furrows in soil beneath their feet while washing streams across rocks splashing up against muddy sprays greeting chilly air, they hurried together toward sanctuary, reaching thick trunks that stood guardian-like along their route. Relief washed over Ethan as the storm's intensity grew. He felt gratitude swell within him, not just for shelter but also for having this young bear by his side in unpredictable wilds fraught with challenges yet brimming alive amidst nature's beauty. Crouching beneath sprawling branches intertwined overhead like protective arms enfolding them, the world outside began blurring together into rhythmic cacophony filled with rain dancing upon everything beneath sheltering boughs, a symphony echoing along forgotten trails etched into memories long past but forever marked within hearts embracing life's uncertainties side by side. It was there in this unpredicted sanctuary beneath nature's grandeur where moments layered themselves anew. Adventurous spirits converging against storms past bearing witness toward creating warmth amid chaos. A gentle reminder encircling souls entwined through shared pathways navigated despite trials faced boldly together within lush wilderness stitched magnificently across infinite skies shimmering brightly through torrents respite while friendship blossomed at every turn forward toward brighter horizons waiting ahead as if life itself beckoned onward in harmony seeking kindred spirits bound true against all odds encumbering wild secret realms awaiting revelation beyond shadows cast along their wanderings carried forth hand in paw illuminating hidden truths awaiting discovery until dawn spreads hope anew across limitless paths journeying hereafter yet kindled eternally bright under watchful stars glowing overhead beckoning dreams unfurling endlessly waiting. As the rain subsided and the forest glistened with droplets clinging to leaves, Ethan and the young bear emerged from their temporary sanctuary, feeling invigorated yet introspective. The experience of navigating danger together had reshaped their understanding of trust and companionship. Each challenge faced had not only strengthened their bond but also imparted a deeper appreciation for life in all its forms. Ethan paused to observe the young bear as it stepped gingerly onto the damp ground. Instinctively testing its surroundings, he realized that this bear was no longer just a wild creature, it had become a symbol of resilience and survival. Its journey mirrored his own in many ways, a journey marked by overcoming fears and embracing vulnerability. With each cautious step, the bear embodied the essence of what it meant to live freely yet also rely on others for support. Life is about trust, Ethan murmured to himself softly, reflecting on how much he had learned from this creature. He remembered moments before they had encountered danger, where both had hesitated but ultimately chose to move forward together, decisions made not out of obligation but from an intrinsic understanding that they were better off united. This lesson was not just relevant to their transient companionship, it echoed throughout his own life, reminding him of the importance of connection with others, even those who were different from him. As they ventured further along the winding path, Ethan noticed how the young bear began to interact more playfully with its environment. It would leap over small streams or paw at fallen leaves, discovering new scents and sounds with a spirited curiosity. Watching this transformation filled Ethan with joy. He saw how embracing one's nature could lead to a sense of freedom. The bear was reclaiming its place in the world after having been confined by fear and trauma. He couldn't help but draw parallels between the bear's experience and human struggles. So often, people found themselves trapped by circumstances beyond their control, paralyzed by fear or uncertainty. Reflecting on his work as an environmental scientist, Ethan recognized how vital it was for all living beings to have compassion extended towards them, humans included. Whether leading campaigns for conservation or simply lending a hand to someone in need, every act mattered. Kindness created ripples that reverberated through time, suddenly, the tranquility of their surroundings shattered as a rustling noise erupted nearby. Both man and bear halted, instinctively turning toward the sound. A family of deer emerged from behind trees, a mother and her fawn cautiously stepping into view. The young bear stood still beside Ethan, curiosity piqued as it watched these graceful creatures interact. Ethan held his breath. This was another lesson unfolding before him. Here were beings navigating their existence in harmony, a delicate balance sustained by respect for one another's space despite being entirely different species. He felt overwhelmed by gratitude for witnessing this moment. Nature had woven them together within its intricate tapestry. As the deer grazed peacefully nearby, Ethan knelt down beside the young bear again, encouraging it to observe quietly rather than intrude on their presence. There was a beauty in listening rather than acting, a reminder that patience could yield profound insights into life's complexities. In that stillness shared among them all, Ethan felt a shift inside himself. He recognized his role as not merely an observer but as an advocate for coexistence among all creatures great and small. Each being had its purpose within ecosystems far grander than he could fathom. He resolved then to employ this newfound understanding in his advocacy efforts back home, to champion compassion for wildlife while reminding others of their shared responsibilities toward nurturing life on Earth. As dusk began to settle over the horizon, painting skies in hues of orange and purple, a quiet sense of fulfillment enveloped Ethan's heart along with awe for nature's wonders manifesting all around him. The young bear nudged against him lightly as if sensing his thoughts, mirroring its own burgeoning instincts toward connection. This journey beneath vast open skies would prove transformative, not just for him but also for the young bear, learning what it meant to trust again amidst trials, face together hand in paw, weaving stories only they could share under watchful stars twinkling brightly overhead, beckoning forth newfound destinies, waiting patiently along uncharted paths nestled deep within wilderness realms. Together they stood at an intersection where lessons learned would echo within hearts forevermore, reminders that compassion transcended barriers while forging bonds capable of weathering any storm encountered along life's winding road. That survival meant more than mere existence. It encompassed thriving through understanding nurtured within every interaction, crafted tenderly amidst wild landscapes bursting alive with stories yearning to be told anew under starlit canopies, promising hope cradled gently until dawn breaks once more across horizons, awaiting discovery beyond imagination itself, waiting quietly at every turn yet unveiled brightly through friendships blossoming boldly into tomorrow. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm golden light over the forest, Ethan felt an undeniable sense of bittersweet anticipation. They had wandered through the wild together for what felt like both an eternity and just a fleeting moment. The young bear, once trapped and fearful, had transformed into a spirited companion, discovering its place in the world anew. Yet now, as they approached the edge of the wooded area where their paths would soon diverge, the reality of their impending separation weighed heavily on Ethan's heart. He paused to take in the scene before him. Vibrant wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze, birds chirping their evening songs, and the distant sound of flowing water from a nearby stream. This had become their sanctuary, a place where laughter and curiosity had blossomed amidst the trials faced together. But as he turned to look at the bear by his side, he was struck by the knowledge that their time together was drawing to a close. Ethan crouched down beside the bear, who was exploring a patch of tall grass with curiosity. He reached out slowly and gently stroked its fur, feeling a surge of warmth and affection swell within him. The young bear paused briefly to meet his gaze, those soulful eyes reflecting both gratitude and an unmistakable bond forged through shared experiences. In that moment, words felt inadequate, their connection transcended language. "It's time for you to go back," he whispered softly, fighting against the lump forming in his throat. "You found your strength again, and I know you'll be okay." His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. He had grown so attached to this remarkable creature that saying goodbye felt almost unbearable. Each word came laden with emotion, a mixture of sadness for their parting and pride for what it represented. The bear tilted its head slightly as if understanding Ethan's sentiment that it took a cautious step back away from him but didn't run off. Instead, it lingered just beyond his reach, its expressive face revealing a blend of confusion and reluctance. In those parsing moments where man and beast stood suspended in time, both seemed acutely aware that this farewell marked not just an end but also a beginning, a turning point in their respective journeys. Ethan's heart twisted as he watched the bear grapple with its newfound freedom. He longed to keep it close but understood all too well that true compassion meant allowing it to reclaim its place in the wild, where it belonged. "You're brave," he said gently, noticing how its small frame trembled slightly, as if sensing his emotional turmoil. "You've overcome so much." In response, the young bear took another tentative step toward him before pausing again, as if testing the waters between instinct and trust one last time. Ethan felt tears welling in his eyes. This creature had taught him so much about resilience and vulnerability. As if sensing his sorrow, the bear leaned forward tentatively, nudging Ethan's hand once again with its snout, a gesture filled with tenderness that ignited a spark of hope within him. With a heavy heart yet profound respect for this extraordinary being before him, Ethan stood up slowly. "I'll always remember you," he promised softly, feeling compelled to impart some final wisdom as they prepared to part ways. "You've shown me how important it is to connect with others, even those who seem different from us." As if sensing these words resonated deeply between them, the young bear lingered for just one more heartbeat before stepping backward into the embrace of nature surrounding them, a realm filled with opportunity waiting patiently for its return. Ethan held his breath as he watched the bear turn its back on him, intrigued by rustling leaves ahead or perhaps drawn toward adventure waiting beyond trees whose secrets beckoned forth promising horizons yet unseen. He felt an ache within himself knowing this was truly goodbye. Yet there remained something sacred about this moment, a bond woven intricately through shared experiences that could never truly be severed. With one last glance over its shoulder, the young bear paused at the edge of sight, locking eyes with Ethan one final time, silent acknowledgement passing between them, a promise sealed deep within hearts forever changed by this encounter beneath vast skies alive with stars shimmering brightly overhead. And then it was gone, lost among whispers carried by wind brushing through branches swaying lightly above the wilderness welcoming back one of its own while Ethan stood alone yet profoundly connected to life's beauty woven seamlessly into poignant farewells leaving traces behind like footprints on paths remembered fondly at dawn breaking anew gently across vast expanses awaiting discoveries ahead where adventures beckoned bravely onward toward brighter tomorrows awaited eagerly beneath starlit skies glimmering softly above nurturing dreams unfolding endlessly into bright horizons waiting quietly beyond all edges untraveled. As Ethan stood alone in the quiet aftermath of their farewell, the weight of the encounter began to settle within him. The young bear had taught him more than he could have ever anticipated, lessons about resilience, trust, and the profound connections that exist between all living beings. He took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh, earthy scent of the forest, feeling the energy of nature pulsating around him. This was not just a place filled with trees and wildlife, it was a living, breathing entity that deserved protection and respect, reflecting on his journey with the bear, Ethan realized that this experience had irrevocably altered his perspective on wildlife conservation. Before this encounter, his work had often felt like an uphill battle, an endeavor to protect creatures that seemed distant and disconnected from human existence. But now, he understood that every act of kindness could ripple through lives in unexpected ways. The bear's struggle and subsequent recovery mirrored the challenges faced by countless animals trapped in similar situations. Often at the mercy of human actions. Ethan's heart swelled with determination as he thought about how this singular moment of compassion, a decision to intervene when faced with suffering, could inspire others. He envisioned campaigns and outreach programs centered around empathy for wildlife, encouraging people to see animals not merely as subjects to be studied or protected, but as sentient beings deserving of understanding and compassion. The idea ignited a fire within him. He wanted to share this message far beyond the confines of his current work. As he began walking back along the path they had traveled together, Ethan contemplated how he could use his experiences to foster greater awareness about the fragility of nature. Each step felt purposeful. He imagined workshops where he could teach others about coexistence with wildlife, emphasizing that every creature plays a vital role in maintaining ecological balance. Through storytelling and education, he aspired to cultivate a sense of responsibility, encouraging individuals to engage with nature thoughtfully and meaningfully. The sun hung low in the sky as it began its descent, a fiery orb casting vibrant hues across the landscape. It felt symbolic, a reminder that endings also herald beginnings. Just as the day would give way to night, so too would this chapter in his life lead to new opportunities for advocacy. He resolved to channel his passion into action, not only for bears like the one he had rescued but for all animals threatened by habitat loss and human encroachment. Every moment spent with that young bear replayed vividly in his mind, its hesitant steps toward trust, its playful spirit reclaiming freedom, and their shared understanding that transcended species. He recognized that fostering these bonds required patience and empathy, a commitment to seeing beyond surface differences. Ethan's thoughts turned toward his community back home, the people who may never have encountered these wild creatures but who still shared responsibility for their welfare. He envisioned creating partnerships with local schools and environmental organizations to facilitate field trips into nature, a chance for young minds to witness firsthand the beauty and complexity of ecosystems. By immersing them in these experiences, he hoped to instill reverence for wildlife early on, cultivating a new generation of advocates dedicated to preserving nature's wonders. With each stride back toward civilization, Ethan felt invigorated by purpose, a renewed commitment not just as an environmental scientist but as a steward for all creatures great and small. The wild had imparted wisdom upon him through one small bear's journey toward healing. Now it was time for him to carry that knowledge forward into a world ripe for change. As twilight cloaked the forest in soft shadows and stars began to twinkle overhead like distant lanterns guiding the way home, Ethan embraced this transformative experience fully. His heart brimmed with hope for future encounters where kindness could flourish amidst uncertainty, a testament woven into narratives shared across boundaries uniting humanity with nature's delicate tapestry waiting patiently for connection. This extraordinary encounter with a once-trapped bear would resonate through Ethan's work for years to come, a reminder that every act of compassion has lasting effects rippling outward like waves across water, a testament illuminating paths toward understanding bridging gaps between man and beast alike. Each story telling tales begging not just to be heard but felt deeply by all who wander beneath starlit skies awash in dreams unfolding endlessly into bright tomorrows waiting gently just beyond horizons yet unseen. As Ethan made his way back toward civilization, he felt the weight of the wilderness behind him, a reservoir of memories that would stay etched in his heart forever. The transformative encounter with the young bear had ignited a profound shift in his understanding of nature and wildlife conservation. He recalled their journey together, from the bear's initial fear and suffering to the blossoming trust they had cultivated through shared experiences. This bond was not just an isolated incident, it represented a larger narrative about the interconnectedness of all living beings. Ethan's thoughts drifted toward the lessons learned during this adventure. He reflected on how compassion, when extended to others, regardless of whether they walked on 2 legs or 4, could weave connections that transcended barriers. Each act of kindness had the potential to create ripples that influenced not only individual lives but entire ecosystems. This realization filled him with resolve. He was determined to advocate for change within his community. Encouraging others to foster their own relationships with wildlife and the environment, the sun began to set, casting vibrant hues across the sky. As Ethan walked through familiar trails lined with towering trees and blossoming wildflowers, each element of nature seemed more vivid now, infused with new meaning and appreciation. As he passed by a group of hikers, he felt compelled to share his story. The extraordinary events that had unfolded during his time in the wilderness. He envisioned inspiring them to look beyond themselves, to see not just a landscape but a living tapestry woven with countless threads of life. Reaching a clearing where he often stopped to take in the view, Ethan paused and took a deep breath. The expansive vista reminded him of how fragile yet resilient nature truly was. He could see beyond mere beauty. He now understood that every creature played a role in maintaining balance within these environments. With each interaction he had, whether with hikers or local schoolchildren, he envisioned emphasizing this interconnectedness, breaking down preconceived notions about wildlife. Determined, Ethan began crafting plans for community outreach programs focused on environmental education and conservation advocacy. He envisioned organizing workshops where young people could learn about local ecosystems through hands-on experiences in nature, the kind of opportunities that could ignite passion for wildlife within them, just as his experience with the bear had done. For him, his goal was clear: cultivate respect and empathy for all living beings among future generations. But it wasn't just educational programs Ethan considered. He also thought about collaborative opportunities with local organizations dedicated to conservation efforts. By bringing people together under a shared mission, whether it was cleaning up local parks, protecting natural habitats, or simply raising awareness regarding human impact on wildlife, he believed they could foster an enduring culture of responsibility toward nature. In those quiet moments spent contemplating their journey homeward, Ethan felt encouraged by what lay ahead, not only for himself but also for those who would follow in their footsteps. The experience with the bear served as a poignant reminder that every living creature deserves kindness and understanding. By communal effort rooted in compassion, they could create positive change. As twilight descended upon him, stars began to twinkle above like distant dreams waiting to be realized. In this moment of reflection under the vast sky, the infinite expanse mirrored by possibilities beckoning just beyond reach, Ethan considered how important it was for everyone to forge connections with nature around them. It wasn't solely about protecting animals but about nurturing relationships built on mutual respect, a commitment to coexist alongside wildlife within delicate ecosystems thriving against all odds. He hoped that through sharing his journey and encouraging others along similar paths toward awakening under starlit skies, they might discover their own transformative encounters among creatures inhabiting lands uncharted yet filled with stories yearning to be found, waiting silently beneath canopies stretching high above, paving ways forward into vibrant tomorrows, shimmering warmly ahead, brimming alive through bonds formed anew within shared existence, dancing harmoniously along trails leading ever onward. This extraordinary adventure, inspired by one small bear finding its strength again, would ripple outward like waves across water, touching lives far beyond what Ethan could foresee. An enduring legacy forged through kindness, echoing softly between man and beast alike, encompassing unyielding hope, waiting patiently amidst wild landscapes, yearning towards connections yet unseen.